If you just joined us, this is The Press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. All right, so our phone lines are open. You can call in to make your contributions or ask your questions. Our guest on the show this morning is Evelyn Epelle. She is a journalist. It's good to have you on the show today.
Good to have you too.
Good to be back.
All right, viewers, now you can call in to make your contributions. Now, let's just actually start from where we're backstage talking about the Chatham House, trying to use the right word. Okay, so the Punch newspaper says Chatham House pilgrimage, Nigerian politicians seek relevance in foreign lands. Do you agree with this headline? Are you for or against?
That's Annabel is back again with her for and against. Annabel is always, you can't be a fascist around Annabel. No. But I always remind you about the grey areas all the time. I always remind you. So first off, Nigeria's foreign policy is, would I say, hopping, or I don't want to say it's shaky. And over the years, we've been seeking outlets to sort of like strengthen our foreign policy, foreign relations. President Buhari has done a very good job in terms of like being vocal to our diplomats about how to carry themselves overseas. One of the things that we all know is that Nigeria's image abroad is dented. Most Nigerians that travel abroad will tell you that for every time you make an attempt to leave this country, coincidentally, the Nigerians would always be the ones that would go through extra security checks. When a passenger's ticket has those SSS marks, it ends up being the Nigerians on board, and you'd have to be asked extra questions and things like that. So generally, our image abroad needs to sort of be, would I say, revived or renewed. Nigeria is suffering a very bad image perception overseas. Now, the idea that politicians are seeking, what's the word that was used?
Relevance.
Seeking relevance in foreign land. I don't think I'll use the word relevance. I think I'll use the word notice, because this is a campaign, and I really would want everyone to recognize what a campaign is. The main essence of a campaign is to sort of like sell your strengths to the people who would vote you. And if Chatham House is offering a platform, which is a global platform for politicians in this election to sort of like share what their ideals are, I think that the word relevance is being misused here. I think that they are just seeking, I would use the word attention. And I'll use attention because for most of them, they went to Chatham House to talk about the issues that we're facing in the country. For most of them, they spoke more to what they can do to prefer solutions. So it was more of a platform that they were leveraging to sort of like sell themselves. So I'll use the word attention. I don't think I'll use the word relevance.
Sorry to cut you short. I like the fact that you said they're trying to create more attention. And when the INEC chairman, that's Professor, went there, he actually made mention that he's not the first. He's the second INEC chairman to visit Chatham House.
Right.
That means Jega was there in the year 2015 or 2019. I can't remember. So now are you trying to say we do not have Nigerian bodies that can actually put or push Nigeria out on the map in the global world?
We do. And only yesterday, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, in fact, there's an event he will be at today at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. The NIIA is the Nigerian equivalent of Chatham House. But not too many people are aware of that institution. I am a Pan-Africanist. And what that means is that before I align with any institution, any global institution, I always look out for the ways in which those institutions create impact on the continent. Otherwise, I prefer to do more continent-facing work as opposed to the opposite. And I'm saying that because when I say to people that, I sit on the board of an international think tank, and I say that, this is the Pan-African Strategic and Policy Research Group, most people do not take it, or most people do not weight it in the same measure as if I had said things like, I'm a director at Carnegie Endowment, which is more of an international think tank that's based outside of the continent. Panastrag is equally an international think tank, but it's based in Lagos. So here in Nigeria, when you tell people that, oh, I sit on the board of an international think tank and it's based in Lagos, people just look at me like, this one is a local champion. This one is a local intellectual. This is not a foreign intellectual. But it doesn't really matter the geographic location of this international think tank, because we do the exact same work. It's really original thinking to benefit African people anywhere in the world. And that's the same thing that the other think tanks are doing for the other regions where they are. So more and more people need to know the reasons these institutions exist. The NIIA is what we are seeing as Chatham House out there. We have our own Chatham House here. It's just that it's not as popular. And I'm happy that we're having this conversation, because it's through these conversations that more and more people get to know about it. I think that Chatham House over the years has been a very good platform in terms of how it provides opportunity for Nigerian politicians and our reps to sort of like discuss issues and bring more things to the fore. But I also think that the way in which we weight their relevance compared to the ways in which we weight the relevance of our own institutions, it's very unbalanced, and more and more people need to sort of like fine-tune the way they're thinking about these institutions.
Okay, now speaking about fine-tuning, now do you actually agree? I'm going to ask you two questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now the first is, you have all of this, I'm trying to use the right word, I don't want to use hype, but all of this talks about Chatham House. Is it like, are we just making too much fuss about it, especially in Nigeria? That's one on the side. And then secondly, should we have presidential candidate like Prince Adewole or Adebayo, who is already trying to use the NIIA? If you're talking about going local, but then at least bringing up your local products and then making them international, and then when you have a lot of people say, okay, we're a consuming nation, we're not a producing nation, but then how much have you been able to even at least do a lot of things in terms of your own country, or even take them abroad? So if you have presidential candidates who decide that, okay, I'm not going to Chatham House, I'm going to do mine in NIIA, I'm going to do my campaigns there, so I'm going to like bring it up and then make international, like make everybody know about it, because a lot of people don't know about it, like you said. Is that one reason why I should look again at that presidential candidate?
Prince Adewole Adebayo, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I think that his comments lately has just been what most politicians would say if they are in the same seats as he is, which is sort of like I told you, this is a campaign, Annabel. Everybody is sort of like selling themselves. And I think that he has spoken to a demographic of Nigerians that Nigerians like me who are very pro-Nigerian. I always promote more of I'm wearing this is a made in Nigerian dress. I'm Nigerian down to my bones. You know, I try to always look, before I do anything foreign, I check for the local equivalent of such a thing. And I think that his comments can inspire that kind of action, which is a good thing. But now I want to go back to the first question you asked, which is Chatham House being more of a talk shop. Only a few weeks ago, we had the US Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. And I happened to be at that summit. And one of the questions that I raised when we were having our stakeholders engagement at the International Media Center is, to what extent is this event? I mean, apart from me, we had on the British Airways flight that left from London to Washington, D.C. was nearly filled up with Nigerians. There were a whole lot of people going to that event, apart from the president and his entourage. So I started asking myself, okay, I'm in this group, I'm on this table that I'm about to call out. What are we going to Washington, D.C. for? Why are we here? How important and how relevant is it that I get on a plane? It's nearly a 12-hour trip. Why are we here? And what real-world impact does this event have? Now, there are two sides of it. As a journalist and as a professional, and just like all the other professionals from the labor and all of that, most people are seeking international partnerships. Most people are seeking international alignments, which is really what most of these engagements, when you go abroad, that's really what it's about. It's more about partnerships, alignments, diplomatic relations and things like that. But the question that I asked really, Robert Scott, who is a U.S. Government official, is to what extent does the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit have any real world in Washington D.C. have any real world impact for, say, someone who, or my cousins in Opobo, right? Because that really is what everybody wants to know. It's not really about being in Washington D.C. sounding nice, right? It's what impact does this event have overall on a kid in Ojuelegba? Like, why is this relevant? That is what most Nigerians always want to know. People don't really look at that top level benefits in terms of foreign policy. But
you still have some people,
and all of that.
You still have some people who will say, have your presidential candidate gone to Chatham House? And now that's the new trend.
Yes. And I'm saying that I don't think that summit was just a talk shop. I don't think that that's what it was. I think that although it didn't have any clearly defined agenda, there were commitments that were being made. It had a deal room, and there were commitments that were being made that can easily be tracked. The issue is, to what extent will we hold people accountable for the things that they say that they will do? If someone has said that they're going to donate $1 million to a community on TV, we need to hold that person accountable to ensure that we actually see that $1 million, and that $1 million gets to the relevant communities that it ought to get to. So I would say that Chatham House is a good platform for any politician to sort of like sell themselves. However, I do not support the idea of going overseas to talk down on your country. And the reason is because the issues that we have in this country are not just ours. I want every Nigerian to do a little experiment. If you talk about police brutality, just let's pick police brutality as just one issue. Just Google police brutality for every African country that we have today, all 54 African countries. Only yesterday, I spent my day discussing with my colleague, Remy Bahati from Uganda, about the issues in Uganda, and it's almost similar to what's going on in Nigeria. In fact, if you see the images without any caption, you assume that they're discussing Nigeria. You know, and I'm not saying that we should live in denial of these issues. I'm just saying that Nigerians tend to conflate apathy for bad leadership and bad governance to apathy for the country, which is the genesis of our issues and why we're having sort of a national identity crisis. So we must be able to separate what disdain for bad leadership. What we have is, we have terrible leaders, we have dwindling infrastructure, we have high poverty rates and so on and so forth, but we do not have a bad country. We have a very good country, and I can tell you all that I'm extremely proud to be a Nigerian.
Okay, I like that. So my question is straight and direct. You made mention of accountability with Chatham House. So is it safe to say going to Chatham House to reveal, oh, this is what and what I'm going to do, promises made and all that? Is it safe to say this is another avenue for Nigerians to be able to hold their leaders accountable to all the promises they've made in Chatham House? I mean, we know some of these political leaders or presidential candidates have not honored any or most of the presidential debates we have in Nigeria, and they've honored Chatham House. So is it safe to say, oh, we can hold them accountable to this when the time comes?
There is a demography of Nigerians that we haven't spoken of, and that's the Nigerians living in the diaspora, which is a very important demography of Nigerians, because when you look at our foreign direct investments, you'd see that Nigerians in diaspora have been very major contributors to very huge. We should, when we wake up in the morning, we should do a video saying thank you all to our diaspora Nigerians, because people send money home. Most of the people, even we spoke about Japan the other day, the more people leave this country, the more chances that dollars would return to Nigeria. Because when a child lives here, of course your parents are here, you would want to quickly make money and blow and send your mother money and send your father money, and all those monies come back to the country. So more and more people need to see how this flows. It's more like a cycle. So think of it as Nigerians on the ground and Nigerians in the air. You know, there are Nigerians that are up in the sky, and there are Nigerians that are on the ground. So when those ones on the ground are looking up, they think that those ones up do not care so much. And when those ones up are looking down, they think that those ones down are not doing enough. that's what it is. When you speak to Nigerians living overseas, which is the demographic that I think that these politicians target, when they go outside, they really not only want to use places like Chatham House. It's not just Chatham House. It's funny that we're discussing Chatham House over and over again, because last year was a wave of politicians going to the US. I saw pictures of Atiku in the US, followed by Peter Obi, even Prince Adewole, Adebayo. As at this time, or not this time, but sometime last year, we were all talking about visits of presidential candidates to the US.
You have to talk about security.
Yes. So I think that now is the turn of the UK, which is fine. Maybe Canada is going to be next. Nobody knows. And I really cannot, well, let me not pretend not to understand it, but I really want to appeal to more and more Nigerians to stop seeing the idea of being in a foreign land as some kind of out-of-body experience. You know what I mean? It's pretty much equivalent to going to give a speech at Ile-Ife, or going to give a speech in Kaduna or Kano. When you say, oh, I went to to Kano Emirates, it holds the same weight as saying I went to Chatham House. But because of our own personal prejudices about what is foreign being better, we tend to sort of like feel like, oh, if someone says, oh, I went to London, when I say, oh, I went to America, that holds some kind of weight. But I also went to Port Harcourt, and I also went to Ondo State, and these are also geographic locations like London, America. They are all names of places. That's all they are. There's nothing special. The same oxygen that we're breathing inside the studio, that's the same oxygen that these presidential candidates are breathing in London. But I think that, like I said before, these platforms are more for PR. That's what I see it for. Because this is a campaign season, more and more of the presidential candidates are looking for platforms one platform that would allow you speak to a large block of people, and that's what Chatham House offers.
Okay, now away from Chatham House and
election.
Okay, I would like to do. I would like to ask questions about Buhari commissions $1.5 billion Lekki Deep Sea Port and other projects today in Lagos State. Some persons have said that the Buhari administration has been said to be very perfect with infrastructure. What's your take on that?
I completely agree with that.
Okay.
I am from the maternal side, from Anambra State.
Okay.
And I'm sure you're very familiar with the second Niger Bridge project.
Yes.
It's not a lie. I was in Onitsha only in 2020, and I went back there in 2021, December 2021. And I'll tell you that I can't sit anywhere on any day to talk down on the Buhari administration when the topic of infrastructure is brought up. And everyone is free to hold whatever sentiment they want about this government, but you can't deny that there's been infrastructural developments, even in our rail. We've now had more and more conversations about this government, especially about train commissioning here and there, although I heard of I'm sure we're going to speak on that.
Exactly.
We're going to speak on that. Okay, but that's not, I don't see that as a Buhari government failure. And I'm sure we're going to speak on that. So yes, I completely agree that the Buhari government has done well in terms of infrastructure. However, at the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, where I happen to be a student, we are being taught that there are three things that are important for every leader to have, which is competence, capacity, and what's the last one? There's a last C, I'm sure it's going to come. And the President Buhari administration has shown that they do have, the last one is character, competence, capacity, and character. The government has shown that they have the right, would I say they have the right character? President Buhari has been one president that nobody can actually come out to say, oh, this person is corrupt as a person. You know what I mean? We as journalists have done our best to sort of like track what he says he has to what is out there. I don't think I've read any news of President Buhari embezzling funds and buying properties abroad like we would hear in the past about our leaders. So I think in terms of his character as a person, he has lived up to the standard that he sets. He's the one who came out to talk about corruption, right? But when it comes to competence and even the capacity that this government has delivered so far, I think we can say that infrastructure is where they would score 10 over 10. But then,
oh really?
What else? Maybe not 10 over 10. Maybe not 10 over 10. But apart from that, what else? Okay. Because if you're a student in school and you're taking mathematics and 11 other subjects, and you score 100% in mathematics, and then you score 0 in your other 11 subjects, you will repeat the class. You know, so I don't want to talk too much on the infrastructure, which they scored an A or an A minus. I want to sort of like look at the entire performance of the government. But because you're asking me on infrastructure, that is why it sounds like I'm a very good friend of President Buhari.
So what exactly is the reason why you're scoring 10 over 10 for infrastructure?
I mean,
is it the
I'm not saying bridge. I won't say I'm going to score them 10 over 10. I'm saying compared to the previous governments, I think that the Buhari government has scored highly when it comes to infrastructure. Right. Apart from even the Niger Bridge, let's use places like River State, for example.
Okay, just hold your thoughts. Let's quickly take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's good to hear from you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you, Raimi from Abuja.
Raimi from Abuja. It's good to hear from you again. Go ahead. Which of the story actually interests you?
Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning. Good morning.
Quickly on the issue we are discussing, the issue of Chatham House, I think the guest has really dealt with it accurately. I just want to add that we have lapses here in Nigeria, which is making some of these candidates to feel more comfortable speaking from outside. Because here within, you agree with me that there are many radio and television stations that opponent or the opposition political parties cannot conveniently go to air their view. Just before the issue of Chatham House came to the hype, you remember the Arise TV invitation to APC, and what happened? It was castigated. They tagged the Arise TV as being against them, as working against them and all that. I have taken my time to follow TVC, for instance. I have never seen an opposition advert in TVC. Then you ask yourself, is it because they did not apply to advertise there, or they have been denied? And even in NTA, if you follow it, or which is supposed to be a government institution that's supposed to be free to everybody, then you see so much lopsided analysis. Then you begin to ask yourself, how did we get to this point? So many things are just not right. Even ordinary, citizen of this country find it difficult to express themselves in radio station and television station these days. You will be talking, anchor will just cut you off that I don't want to be queried
off your mic
by MPC or whatever.
All right.
So you discover that there is no freedom as it's supposed to be. And then if the candidates could have their way, besides, they were not the ones that applied to the Chatham House. They were being invited by the Chatham House management.
All right. Thank you so much, Raimi. Thank you so much for your contribution. Please land your thoughts.
Before I land the thought, I really want to give it to your guest, the caller. I think that he has raised a very valid point that we sort of missed in our conversation, and that's even a point that we should sort of revisit quickly, and that's the issue of media framing. I think that only yesterday I said to myself that I want to look more into research on what the media framing has been for the 2023 presidential election, which is how has Nigerian media framed the 2023 general election. And listening to your guest reminds me of my thought process, because just like he said, our own Nigerian media has sort of, would I say shrink? Is that the right word? Shrunk the presidential election to sort of appear as if it's only three people that are running for president. We have 18 presidential candidates. And there are even presidential candidates that I'm sure nobody knows. I was telling someone the other day if they knew some Malik Adewole who was running for president. I was like, oh, who is that? And we had to Google the person. And I was like, how much you know this person? This person has been everywhere having issue-based conversations. And I think that these are the issues, and that's what your guest is talking about. And that's why I said I don't want to agree with that Punch headline. And I want that word to be replaced with attention. So the attention that they are not getting here, they feel that they can get that attention there. Because based on our media framing, we sort of like cut out opportunities for certain people to even express themselves.
So where exactly is the dichotomy coming from? Is it from the media? The media is not actually giving them that let me leave the Punch relevance to notice, attention. Is it the Nigerian media that is actually removing all of that from them?
It comes down to political socialization, which is the interaction between the media and politics. So to what extent does a media house have independence? Like, to what extent is a media house independent? I want to use KAFTAN TV as an example because it's a prime example where you have a TV station that's owned and founded by a presidential candidate. I'm sure that your viewers can agree that at no point during this election period has KAFTAN TV shown any sort of leaning or favor for the SDP presidential candidate, even if he is owner and founder. When was the last time you interviewed Prince Adewole Adebayo? When was the last time he even made his way into this TV station, right? So I don't think anybody can come to say a statement like, oh, Prince Adewole Adebayo is using KAFTAN TV to promote his
just like one of the headline. I'm not going to mention name, but they saw it this morning. One of the headline I already have the. Let's just leave it that way.
Okay, you know, I'm not sure, and I'm talking now on I'm serious. I'm talking about political socialization.
Okay.
But your guest now is really bringing up a point here where a TV station that claims to be independent and autonomous is showing clear signs of bias, and it has become evident now that certain people cannot mount certain platforms or podiums. I still remember when Arise did the presidential town hall series. And 3 presidential candidates were invited, and it was after the SDP presidential candidates raised some dust on Twitter about, you know, the politics that's been played on Arise TV, and then there was a series 2 which wasn't planned for but was just quickly introduced, and 3 other presidential candidates were invited. I think that in a democracy, what I would enjoy seeing are TV stations and platforms, just like your platform, where any presidential candidates can walk in to express themselves. And I think that that's what more and more people are seeking when they look out to these foreign platforms, because places like the US is known to be the land of the free. Any Shoawing can land in Washington DC and really go into anywhere and say what he wants to say. But there are some TV stations that would not even air him, or would even cut him in the middle of his conversation. So yeah, I'm really thankful to your guest for bringing up that point.
Excellent. All right, let's take other story. Okay, we're actually going to talk about the still on infrastructure. We're going to talk about the train or the rail attack that was seen in Edo State, and then the other one happened before then in Abuja, Kaduna train attack, and then we're actually talking about it. And I asked, how come does it actually mean that in one part of the region we are really serious with regards to securing the lives and properties of people? Because you recall what happened during the Abuja train attack. It took like 6 months before the kidnapped victims were reunited with their families. But then in Edo State, it was like a different kettle of fish entirely. Less than 2 weeks, and they were able to clamp down on this bandits and return these people back to their homes. And now they have the cameras, the security cameras, and everything. And then we saw another one excuse me. We saw another one in Kogi State where they said there was a rail derail and all of that, and the passengers were left stranded. So now we're talking about infrastructure, how much this government have done with regards to infrastructure. With all of these small issues you have with the rail, which is the number one talk when it comes to infrastructure, does it actually mean that this government did well providing the infrastructure, but then not so much is done with maintaining, sustaining this infrastructure.
Which is what brings me back to the issue of the classroom, where I said, if you're in a class and you have 12 subjects, mathematics, English, civic education, PHE, and you score 10 over 10 in math, and you score 0 over 10 in the others, you would repeat that class because that's an F. You're being judged cumulatively, not based on performance, fantastic performance in one thing. When I read about the train that derailed yesterday, glory be to God, there wasn't any casualty reported. I looked at that story differently from the other events involving trains, which has mostly been about kidnappings, more insecurity. This was more an accident, and I was looking more into why did this happen. I read pockets of reasons here and there, but it came down to the trail tracks were vandalized, some of the trail tracks were missing, and so I think when the train approached that area, it derailed as a result of the vandalization of the tracks. This brought me back, and in fact I was just fiddling my phone to sort of like look for the exact message that I shared with my very good friend Grace Chimeze, who is also in the public policy space. During the US Africa Leaders Summit, I spent about 4 days with Grace, and we had a very heated conversation. Okay. It was almost like
please hold your thoughts on that conversation. We're going to take that conversation after this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I am Fortune. I'm calling in from Abuja.
Fortune calling us from Abuja. Go ahead. 60 seconds.
Yes. All right. Good morning to the guests in the house.
Good morning.
All right. Thank you. Please. I wanted to contribute on the aspect of President Buhari or this administration doing well in the in the aspect of infrastructure.
Go ahead, very quickly.
And I want to correct an impression there, because the lie about the so-called infrastructure has slide more than as it is in reality. Let's compare this to the past administration infrastructure, or what do we call them? They built, I think, 12 federal universities across the country. They built, they were the ones that were responsible for Asababini or Expressway. So they constructed all this. So I don't think that apart from this so-called Nigeria bridge, which is overhyped, because even the money budgeted to the construction is not up to what it's supposed to be. So all these things have been overhyped more than what we have in reality. The so-called Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is still in a shambles. What about Oka Expressway? All this would we apply them every day, and we understand that they have been awarded all this while, and I think the administration is winding up, and is not even close to completion. So when we talk about the administration doing well in infrastructure, I think it's a scam, because it's only that the government has equipped themselves well with media propaganda more than more than.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. He says it's a scam.
It's a scam. Well, outright. Everyone, I respect everyone's opinion. I'm saying that if I was a school teacher, if I were a school teacher, I would score President Buhari's administration very highly in the area of infrastructure, because during my travels, and worldview matters a lot. I really don't know how much he has seen in terms of how his view. When you stay in one place and you make this country has 36 states. In the last 12 months, how many states in Nigeria have you been to? Personally, I've been to more than 6 or 7 in the last year, and that's spread across. I've been to Kano, Jigawa, I've been to Ondo State, I've been to Port Harcourt. So I pretty much have gone up north, gone to the south, been to the west, and I'm saying that the level of infrastructure development that I have seen is commendable. More can be done. I'd like to see. Only yesterday on Twitter I was having conversations about how our post offices can be revived. We also have issues with our hospitals, we have issues with our schools, and like I'm saying, I don't want this 10 over 10, or not 10 over 10, I don't want this high marks that we're giving these guys in infrastructure to sort of like confuse everyone to think that we're saying that the government has done well. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that in terms of their efforts towards infrastructure development, that they have tried. This brings me back to the conversation I said I had with my good friend Grace Chimeze. There's this argument that we both have had for a while now, which is on what is the problem of Nigeria. And that question has almost cost us our friendship, because we would argue and argue and argue. And my friend Grace holds the position that the problem of Nigeria is in the leadership. And I'm sure that that is the worldview that's been held by all and sundry. Everywhere you go, you hear that, oh, we have bad leaders, bad leaders. My father passed at 74, and the only thing he kept saying before he passed was, oh, this country, our leaders. I've heard it since I was born. I don't think we've had any government where people say, oh, finally we have good leaders. We've always had bad leaders, right? Now, Grace thinks that the issue of Nigeria is bad leadership. That's the first thing Chinua Achebe said in his book, The Problem with Nigeria. He went straight in page 1 to say the problem with Nigeria is leadership. We have a leadership problem. I don't agree. I don't agree because I have seen that Nigeria is very unique in its context. Nigeria is next to none when you think about how to solve Nigeria's problems, which is why anytime anybody is talking about the solution to Nigeria's problem and you start telling me, oh, so in America or in Japan, I just immediately stop listening to you, because first off, I know that you have no real world understanding of Nigeria. Nigeria is so unique to the point that what we work in Lagos will not work in Anambra. What will work in Anambra will not work in Port Harcourt. If you govern Port Harcourt like you want to govern Sokoto, it's not going to work. That's how unique Nigeria is. And that might also be partly due to our diversity, our ethnic context. We have more than 700 different ethnic groups. So that might be it. I really haven't looked down into what the causation is. I think that the main problem we have in Nigeria is hypocrisy and lack of taking responsibility.
So are you actually saying that if you govern Lagos, for instance, you might not be able to govern Nigeria generally?
Yes. Nigeria is so diverse, and it's more of I don't want to call it an anomaly, but the fact that someone succeeded as a governor in Lagos State does not mean that that person would succeed as the president of Nigeria or as the governor of Kaduna, because these are two different areas with two different cultural behaviors, two different have you been to places like Jos and then compare it to your visit in places like Uyo? It's like two different worlds, right? Now, I'm saying that the problem with Nigeria is hypocrisy because when I had to go to the MTN office to do my welcome back of my MTN SIM, the process did not at any point involve my engagement with President Buhari. Everyone says President Buhari is not doing well, all of that. Welcoming back my MTN SIM did not involve President Buhari at any point. They said I had to go to the High Court to get an affidavit, which I will bring back to the MTN office to welcome back my SIM. When I arrived at the High Court, which is this story I'm about to tell you, is the same one I told Grace, and is very typical of what's happening in Nigeria. When I arrived at the High Court, I was told that I couldn't get my affidavit on that day. I had to go and come back the next day. And I said, oh, why? And the security lady at the court, this is in front of a High Court, told me that she usually gives people numbers. When you come, she'll give you numbers, and that she's done giving numbers for the day. So I had to go and come back the next day. That was about 10 a.m. in the morning. And I said, okay. And I turned around to go. I said, oh, but I can help you. And I said, okay, how do you plan to help me? She said, oh, if you give me 5,000 naira, I'll just help you go in, that you will not even queue. And I quickly called my mom. I was like, Mommy, I'm sure you see my Twitter bio says bright Nigerian citizen. I do not condone corruption.
New Nigeria.
I do not participate in it. And my mom said, Biatne, open your eyes. You are in Nigeria. You're not in America. You always forget that you're not in America. My mom said to me, and I'm saying exactly what is the sentiment of Nigerians. And I'm sure that if we're all being as honest as I am, we will all agree with the story that I'm saying, and what my mom is saying. My mom said, if you don't give that woman 5,000 naira and go into that high court and get your affidavit, not only will you keep coming, but you will be marked, and this woman will frustrate you and make sure that at some point you might have to give up the line completely. And so, long story short, I had to participate in the corruption. I had to involuntarily participate in corruption by giving her 5,000 naira of my money. And guess what? I got into the high court. There was no queue. In fact, there was nobody there. The commissioner of oaths was just drinking tea. When I came, he just signed the affidavit and I left. In my presence, they were sharing the 5,000 naira amongst themselves.
All right.
And it made me understand that there is a joint effort to defraud Nigerians from the office of the commissioner of oaths down to the security. And remember that all of this is happening inside the courts. All of this is happening inside the courts.
You can imagine.
Which is why I'm telling you that the problem with Nigeria is not bad leadership. Because if you spend another 1-2 hours with the people, would I call them armed robbers? I don't even know what to call them. If you spend another 1-2 hours with these people, you will find out that they will start using words like, this Buhari government, this government is such a terrible government. But is the government a terrible government, or are you a terrible person?
All right, I think we should just leave it there. Time is fast spent. Thank you so much, Evelyn Epelle, journalist. It's been a wonderful time. It's always a wonderful time having this talk with you.
Yeah, it was
nice talking to you. Yeah,
thank you.
All right, viewers, that's all we can take. We're sorry we can't take your call anymore. That's all we can take for this segment of the show. So we move straight to social media trends. And there's this video of a particular woman who is cooking, and then all of a sudden she just spits inside the food. It means that you really have to be careful what you eat outside. Let's take that video. We'll come back with more on social media trends. Ew, Jesus.
Yuck is the word.
Okay, so we don't know what we eat outside, but it's only God that is only just saving us. Just be careful what you eat outside. That's all I can say, because we cannot stop eating outside, right?
Yeah. Even if we want to stop eating outside, the fruits we take. There was once a video that went viral about how the guy washes his fruits in the gutter.
Okay.
Okay, let's just move on.
We said a great peace.
Oh my God.
No violence. It's a no violence.
Yeah, we said no violence today.
But I can't help. There's a particular social media trend from Shoawing and Senator Shehu Sani. It's a Glasgow something, and I will take it, even though we are embracing peace this Monday. From Senator Shehu Sani, he says, from Yele Shoawing says, dear brother Shoawing. Okay, no, it's from Senator Sani. He says, dear brother Shoawing, if you win, please don't legalize marijuana, ganja. They will destroy your youth. We need no Rasta here. Okay, and that is from Shehu Sani telling Yele Shoawing. And then Yele Shoawing replies with, great comrade Shehu Sani, 4 years ago I told you cannabis hair product could help keep your hair beautiful. And okay, I'm sorry, I'll take it again. It says 4 years ago I told you cannabis hair product could help keep your beautiful afro nurtured, but you won't listen. Now I heard your afro is disappearing. We will miss it. And then Senator Shehu Sani replies with, rather trained to the size of the economy of Nigeria. Voila, everywhere. Okay, so we'll take the next one, and this one is the new Naira note. I think there's a particular is it a problem, or is maybe they didn't cut it well, or they were trying to there's a picture right there. I don't know if our producer can put it up, and what exactly was the problem there? Was it the problem with cut or something? Anyway, let's move away from that one and then take this video from who? The Rivers State governor. He said, I dare people to come say at my face, or to come insult me right at my face. We'll take that video and come back with more on social media trends.
It's not about, Rivers State, they said they will sack me. I've been waiting patiently. Chief Officer, she have been waiting me, I've been waiting patiently. The day they will announce it, then they will know Kaki no be legal. Then they will know Kaki no be legal. It's not to go on media to use their television houses and electronic media and print media to abuse us. Don't worry about those abuses. We don't even care. Don't even listen. Say it. Say it. Then you know.
All right, that's all we can take for today. That's the package for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and to all those who called in to make their contributions, or to all those who called and were not able to take your calls, we're so sorry. We do not take your call for granted at all. We'll definitely take your calls tomorrow. See you again tomorrow. Have a very beautiful Monday morning and stay safe. And like I always say, go get your PVCs. I'm Annabel Orji.
And I am Babajide. Do well to stay safe. See you tomorrow. Bye.